The crystal punch bowl didn't just represent a drink. It was the final baptism of my humiliation. As Marcus stood over me, his face twisted in a sneer I'd once mistaken for a smile, he didn't just want to drench me, he wanted to drown the Harrington name. 1,000 guests, the who's who of Chicago, held up their phones like digital pitchforks, ready to post the fall of a pregnant heiress for social media clout. "Do it, Scarlett," Marcus barked, his voice echoing off the marble. "Empty the whole thing on her head. Show everyone here who truly deserves to stand beside me." As the ice-cold liquid crashed over my 6-month pregnant belly, soaking my champagne gown and my dignity, something shifted inside me. I wasn't just cold, I was awake. The man I had traded my family for, the man I had defended against my own flesh and blood, was a ghost. But behind the heavy mahogany doors of the Grand Meridian Ballroom, 3 men were about to remind Marcus that some ghosts come back to haunt you. The Harringtons were home, and they didn't come for the party. They came for the reckoning. 5 years ago, I thought I was a revolutionary. I stood in the foyer of our family estate, looking at my oldest brother, Aiden. His face was a mask of stoic fury.
"He's using you, Bella," he had said.
"The financial records don't lie. Marcus Drake is a bottom feeder looking for a golden ticket." I had laughed in his face. To me, Aiden, Grayson, and Miles weren't brothers. They were jailers. They were the billionaire Harringtons, the men who owned the skyline, and I was just their little project. When Marcus, a struggling MBA student with the eyes of a poet, told me I was the first person who ever truly saw him, I believed him. I believed him because I wanted to believe I was more than my trust fund. I eloped 3 weeks later. I blocked their numbers. I changed my name. I wanted to prove I could build a life from scratch. What I didn't realize was that Marcus didn't want a life. He wanted a bridge. And I was the stones he walked on to cross into a world of wealth he could never have touched on his own. The first 2 years were a dream, or at least a very well-constructed illusion. But once Marcus used my remaining Harrington contacts to secure his first $20 million in seed capital, the mask began to slip. It started with pregnancy brain. That's what he called it when I noticed money missing from our joint accounts. "You're just tired, Bella. Let me handle the stress." Then came the vitamins. Every morning, Marcus would hand me a glass of water and a handful of supplements. "For the baby," he'd say. But within an hour of taking them, the world would go fuzzy at the edges. I felt heavy, lethargic, and compliant. I stopped questioning the long business trips. I stopped asking why Scarlett, his legal consultant, was suddenly living in our guest house and wearing my jewelry. I was a prisoner in a mansion I had helped build, drugged into submission while my husband planned my legal erasure. Scarlett Hayes didn't hide her contempt. She would walk into the kitchen in her silk robes, robes that bore my initials, and snap her fingers at me. "Isabella, the espresso machine is acting up again. Fix it, would you?" When I complained to Marcus, he would sigh as if I were a burden. "Scarlett is a Harvard Law grad, Bella. She's the reason our merger is going through. If you can't be grateful, at least be quiet. Your hormones are making you paranoid." I found a bottle of unlabeled pills in Marcus's desk one afternoon when the vitamin fog lifted early. I hid them. That night, I didn't take my supplements. For the first time in months, the world was sharp. That was the night I heard them laughing in the study. "Once she has the baby," Scarlett's voice was like a blade, "we file the incompetency papers. Between the postpartum depression and the medical records I've forged, she won't even be allowed to visit. The Harrington Trust will be ours to manage." I was terrified. I had no one. I had burned every bridge. But then, Sophie Chin arrived. Sophie was my only friend from college who Marcus hadn't been able to scare away. She arrived under the guise of a baby shower planning meeting. While Marcus was on a call, Sophie grabbed my wrists. "Bella, listen to me. Your brothers, they never stopped. They've had a security team 8 blocks away for 5 years. They respected your wish for space, but they've been logging every move Marcus makes." She handed me a burner phone. "The anniversary gala is in 2 days. Marcus is planning to humiliate you publicly to break your spirit before they commit you. He thinks you're alone. You're not. When the music stops, look at the doors. The Grand Meridian was a sea of silk and hypocrisy. Marcus had forced me into a gown that was 2 sizes too small and made of cheap, itchy lace. We need to look relatable for the new investors, Bella, he'd lied. Meanwhile, Scarlett stood at his side in a $50,000 custom couture piece, glowing like a predator. The room was filled with 1,000 people who used to kiss my brother's rings. Now, they looked at me with pity or amusement. I was the Harrington girl who fell. I was the warning story parents told their daughters. Marcus took the stage. He didn't talk about our 5 years of marriage. He talked about his vision. He talked about shedding the dead weight of the past. And then he called me up. The punch bowl was crystal, heavy, and filled with a deep red liquid that looked like blood under the chandeliers. Isabella has struggled lately, Marcus told the crowd, his voice dripping with fake sympathy. The pregnancy has been difficult on her mind. She's become a burden to the firm. And tonight, I think we need a fresh start. He looked at Scarlett. She picked up the bowl. The crowd went silent. My heart hammered against my ribs. The baby kicked hard, as if she knew.
Splash.
The cold was a shock that stole my breath. It ran down my face, stinging my eyes, soaking the cheap lace of my dress until it clung to me like a second, shameful skin. I stood there, drenched in front of the world, while my husband laughed. Look at her. Scarlett crowed. So ordinary. Did you really think a man like Marcus would stay with a Harrington reject? The laughter was at its peak when the sound happened. A heavy, metallic thud that vibrated through the floorboards. The mahogany doors didn't just open. They were kicked inward with such force the hinges screamed. The silence that followed was absolute. Aiden Harrington walked in first. He looked like a god of war in a tailored black suit. Behind him were Grayson and Miles. They didn't walk like guests, they walked like owners. The air in the room didn't just get colder, it became unbreathable. Aiden walked straight to me. He didn't look at Marcus. He didn't look at the mistress. He took off his jacket and wrapped it around me. I've got you, Bella, he whispered. The 5 years are over. Marcus tried to play it off. Aiden, what a surprise. We were just... Shut up, Marcus, Miles said, holding up a black device. I just activated a localized jammer. No one in this room can upload a single photo. But my stream? My stream is going out to 10 million people live. The world isn't seeing the fall of a Harrington. They're seeing the end of Marcus Drake. Miles turned his phone toward Marcus. The comments were a blur of rage. Marcus's relatable image vanished in a heartbeat. Grayson stepped forward next. He was the one who handled the dirty work of the family empire. He pulled out a tablet. He wasn't a self-made man. He was a monster caught on camera. Marcus, you rely on the Pembroke investment for your real estate merger, right? Well, I just bought Douglas Pembroke's primary debt. He's now my employee. And he just informed me that he's pulling every cent from your firm. As of 60 seconds ago, your company is insolvent. Your bank accounts are frozen. The house you're living in? It's under a Harrington lien. You have 10 minutes to clear your desk before the locks change. And then there's the matter of your health, Bella, Grayson continued, his voice turning into a lethal whisper as he looked at Marcus. He gestured to the door. A man in a white coat walked in, Dr. Eris, renowned toxicologist. We've been testing the vitamins Sophie has been smuggling out of your house for weeks, Bella. Marcus hasn't been giving you supplements. He's been dosing you with scopolamine, the devil's breath. It's a drug that erases free will and causes long-term lethargy. The room gasped. Marcus stumbled back, his face a mask of terror. That's a lie. You can't prove. We have the video of you crushing the pills into her water, Marcus, Miles interjected. Pinhole cameras in the kitchen. We've seen everything. Aiden stepped closer to Marcus, his shadow looming over him. But you weren't just drugging her to steal her money, were you? You were drugging her because you were afraid she'd find out about Miami. Aiden hit a button on the large ballroom screen. Instead of the anniversary slideshow, a photo appeared. It was Marcus 3 years ago, at a park in Florida. He was holding a toddler. A woman stood next to him, laughing. "Meet Jennifer Cortez," Aiden said. "Marcus's other wife. They've been married for 7 years. Which means your marriage to my sister was bigamy. It was never legal. You didn't just cheat on her, Marcus. You committed a federal crime the moment you said, 'I do.'" Scarlett tried to run, but 2 female security guards, Harrington employees, blocked her path. "And you, Scarlett," Miles said, looking at the mistress. "Or should I call you by your real name? Sarah Miller. You never went to Harvard. You're a disbarred paralegal from Ohio who Marcus hired to help him navigate the Harrington Trust documents. We've already sent the evidence of your document forgery to the State Bar and the FBI. Your prestigious law career is going to be spent in a federal prison laundry room." The doors opened one final time. This wasn't a brother or a doctor. It was the FBI. Marcus fell to his knees. The arrogance that had fueled him for 5 years evaporated, leaving behind a small, pathetic man. "Bella, please," he begged, reaching for my hem. "I did it for us. I wanted us to be powerful like them." I looked down at him. For the first time, the scopolamine fog was gone. I saw him for exactly what he was, a parasite. "You didn't do it for us, Marcus," I said, my voice steady for the first time in years. "You did it because you were too small to be a Harrington, so you tried to break one instead. But you forgot. We don't break. We just wait for the right time to strike." The click of the handcuffs was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. The drive home was silent. I sat in the back of Aiden's Koenigsegg, wrapped in his jacket, watching the city lights of Chicago blur past. "Why did you wait so long?" I finally asked. "Why let it get to the punch bowl?" Aiden looked at me through the rear-view mirror. "Because if we had come 5 minutes earlier, you would have hated us for controlling your life again. You had to see him for yourself, Bella. We had to wait until you were ready to come home on your own terms. We were 8 blocks away, every single night. We never left you." I leaned my head on Miles's shoulder and finally, for the first time in 5 years, I slept without the help of a pill. 6 months later, the Harrington estate was filled with a new sound, the cry of a healthy baby girl. Charlotte Rose Harrington didn't have her father's name. She had a legacy of her own. My brothers were currently in the nursery, arguing over which Ivy League school she would attend and which security detail was best for a toddler. I sat on the terrace, watching the sun set over the lake. Marcus was serving 20 years. Scarlett was gone. My life had been dismantled and rebuilt, stronger than before. I looked at my brothers and realized that independence isn't about being alone. It's about knowing who will stand behind the door when the world tries to throw you down. I was a Harrington, and we never ever leave family behind.